Good morning and welcome back to the Film School Chronicle. I am your co-host Carmelo Keating, and this morning I am joined by Emma Jordin. How are you this morning, Emma?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Bryce Quinn. How are you, Bryce?
I'm good, thanks, Carmelo. How are you?
Good, thank you very much. Okay, so, Emma, you are a would-be Griffith third year.
Yes.
Currently deferred, working in the industry. It's
Yes.
a very exciting thing. Probably the most exciting guest we've had on the show so much.
Oh, don't discredit the other guests. We love what they had to talk
We
about.
We definitely have. But this is some very exciting topics today. So, Emma, basically, could you give us an overview on what you've been working on over the last few months?
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say thanks for that that intro. That was really fancy for me. So I've been working on 2 shows. I'm currently on my second show. My first show was a TV series for NBC called Young Rock. And that was all about Dwayne Johnson and his life growing up. So it goes in kind of like 3 phases. Sorry, 4. So, but in Australia, we shot 3. So it's kind of like him as a 10-year-old, him as a 15-year-old, and him as a 20-year-old. And that was from October last year. So October 2020 that we started shooting. And that finished around February. And then I had a month or just under a month off, and now I'm working on The Wild season 2. So that started shooting maybe like we're on our we just finished our 3rd week of shooting, so that started a little bit ago. Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay. So the Young Rock show is a really big show. Like, I remember there was so much like hype around it last year, and everyone's like, "Oh, I've got to get on this. This is like such a massive American production that they brought over to Australia." So what was your role on that production, and what was it like working for NBC, which is such a big studio?
So my role on that production was truck loading / camera and video assistant. So I was in the camera department. Honestly, I didn't go into it being like, "Yeah, I'm working for NBC, sick." I went into it going, wow, I'm so incredibly nervous. This is my first job. It just happened to be such a large scale job. Yeah. So I don't know, like I kind of went into it being like, yeah, I know stuff, like it's sweet. And then I got there and I was like, I know nothing. And like, it was just, I went through a phase where it was just a lot of just learning on the spot. So like, a lot of people asking me, go get this. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. And so it was asking questions, and there were periods of times where people would get angry at me because I didn't know what something was, and I just literally had to be like, I'm sorry, like, this is my first job. And they were like, oh, that's so okay. And so it was just a lot of learning. And so I didn't go into it going like, oh, it's a big NBC job. It took kind of, I would say, like 3 months before I was like, wow, I'm working for NBC. Right. And that's when it was kind of like, wow, I'm actually working in a professional environment, like with professional people, with professional actors. And it's scary. Like, it was really, really scary to think of, because you don't, like, I saw myself as this little film school person. Like, I didn't expect to be thrown into the deep end of this. But I came out of it as just such a bigger person. Yeah, like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I look at myself at the beginning of the job versus the end of the job, and I'm just 2 different people. And it was 5 months with a 2-week Christmas break in between. So it was a lot of shooting. It was a lot of long hours. It was definitely like one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But it was definitely an experience that I'll never forget.
And is it something you want to do again? You want to do more of?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like when you're doing the job, you spend every day going, oh my God, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. I want this day to end. Oh, we're doing overtime again. And like, you just cannot wait to move on to the next day. And then I'd say in like the last week of that show, I was kind of like, I don't want to be doing anything else. Like, I don't want this to end. And so in that few weeks that I had after the show finished, I didn't know if I was going to get on something else afterwards. I didn't know if I was going to go back to uni. Like, it was in that weird middle phase, and I had to do a little bit of soul searching, I'd say, for a couple of weeks to be like, what do I genuinely want to do? Like, what am I genuinely interested in? And I got offered to be on The Wild, which is another Amazon Disney TV show. So I'm actually employed at the moment by the Walt Disney Company, which is also really cool.
Congratulations.
So yeah, like it's not until you put it in that context that you're like, holy dooly, like this is awesome. you just spend each moment going like, oh, I'm just enjoying the now and waiting to see what comes tomorrow. Like every day is different, and you kind of just, you can't go into it being like, oh, at the end of this job, I'm going to be head of the camera department. Like, you just like, I just want to get hired again kind of thing. And so I'm just really fortunate that I happened to be able to go from one to another.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have this projection in my head of what I imagine the industry, like once I one day get jobs in the industry kind of thing. And working in the like that environment, it seems to me like what you're saying of very intensive work blocks, and you're working overtime every day for like a couple months straight, and then just a big break after that kind of thing.
Yeah, so that was my biggest thing going into the industry, was I had no idea what to expect. Because obviously, like, in film school as well, so obviously, like, I'm from the cohort where we still had drama production at the end of second year, and you spend all the third year doing grad slate and whatnot. And so I just finished drama production. And that was hectic for me. Like, I was DOPing Where Would You Be? And I was just like, this is as crazy as it can get kind of thing. And so when I went on to Young Rock, I was a bit like, whoa, because because it's an episodic thing. It's a TV series. So you're not shooting one big long feature. You're shooting episodes. And so they break it up into blocks. So you do one block over maybe like 3 weeks, and that might be the 3 episodes. And then you do a couple days in between of just like pre and getting your head around like what's just happened and preparing for the next block. And then you do another block, which is maybe like the next 2 or 3 episodes. And so it's kind of like, yeah, really intense periods of work. And even though you go, 3 weeks, that's not a long time. Like when you're doing it and you're doing a standard camera day, like in the technical department, is easily 11 hours. And that's excluding your travel, like before you arrive, like the time you arrive before your pre-calls, plus your pre-calls, like, so you're doing up to 70-hour weeks over 5 days. And you get to the end of the week and you're like, I have no idea what time is. I have no idea what my hobbies are. Like,
it makes you wonder what part of a production's budget is caffeine.
Oh,
you know?
So much of it is caffeine. The barista is the most like respected person on set.
I've heard that like it's not a good film until like unless the unit is done well, like the unit manager.
Yeah, and that was one thing in film school I didn't get, like which sounds really horrible on my part, but it's just being naive. And like I honestly used to think like, oh, why would you want to do unit in film school? Like, why would you not want to be hands-on and do this, or like AD or whatever? But unit is literally so important, and having a good unit manager, you make the whole crew happy. If you can have like the right food, have the right supplies, just know how to keep them happy, give them chairs when they need to. Like, the unit department is in charge of so much, and they're such a liability. And so yeah, like every department is so important, and that's a thing in film school I feel like you kind of overlook sometimes, because you're so engrossed with like wanting to do the best that you kind of forget that it's a teamwork. Like it's a teamwork. How do I phrase it? Like, it's like a team sport. Every single role is important. Yeah. And yeah, I feel like as soon as I got in the industry, I was like, wow, my little role is important in this big scheme of things. So it's not just me, it's everybody.
Yeah. There's that saying they keep repeating to us at film school, which is like always very true. There's no small roles, just small people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one.
You haven't heard that one?
No.
Oh, well, it's important.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It's honestly, like, I feel like the way that you can not do your job well is if you think that your job is the only important job.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So this is a bit of a big question, but so you've obviously enjoyed your time at film school. Prior to these productions, of course, that's why you wanted to keep doing film. How well would you say that film school prepared you for working in the industry?
That's a really good question. I would say it's really hard because I'm in a technical department. Yeah. So I would say the skills I learnt technically and I learnt from being hands-on, I learnt in the industry, doing free commercials and doing industry work and volunteering and doing internships and stuff before I got hired. But I'd say in terms of how a film set works, film school was really good. Just knowing like how collaborative you have to be all the time. I got that from film school. Even just like the ability to make friends and get along with people and to express your own ideas and stuff. Like I'm really glad I went. And like I've deferred, so I haven't completely dropped the course, but it's because a part of me just doesn't want to drop the course. Like I've had so much fun, and I still have all my friends in third year and stuff, and I'm still supportive of all their films, and I can't wait to see them. And I know how much like energy goes into collaborating with other people and whatnot. And I'd say like I definitely learned that from film school. So it's that kind of stuff that's really vital to know, because when you get onto a big set, you know all the departments because you've already had to learn that. You still know like a basis of what each role is, and that's, I think, really important regardless.
So you're working on like, you know, actual professional productions and getting paid and everything. How would you say that contrasts with being a student filmmaker and working on those kinds of sets?
I think honestly the biggest thing, and you hear people say it all the time, is that on a big film set, time is money. And so you can't mess around. Like, you need to do your job, and you need to do it quickly, and you need to do it efficiently, and there's none of this like, oh, I'm going to stop and have a chat and have a joke. It's like, no, like, it's not the time for chatting. You just work. And then it's the little breaks in between that you're like, oh, we can have some banter and this and that, have a laugh, blah, blah, blah. And like, I feel like on film school productions, because a lot of the time you see everyone as your mate, which is great because it's easy to collaborate and stuff with them and share your ideas, but it's also easy to kind of forget that you're doing a job.
Right.
And so I feel like, and Bridget said this on your last episode, was that you kind of have to treat it like you're working in a workspace. Like these are your colleagues as opposed to your friends.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, oh no, I just lost it.
You lost your point?
I had
That's
my
right.
question, I lost it.
I had something.
Okay, go.
That's all right. Yeah,
Go.
cool. Thank you. So yeah, Emma, like, what does it mean to you that, like, you know, you're able to go back to film school if you want? You know, you're able to get the degree, because obviously, you know, in the arts industry, a degree doesn't mean everything. You know, it's all about experience, and you're getting that experience. But, you know, is it something that's important to you, do you think?
It is and it isn't. Like, for me personally, like, I've always been one of those people where I try my hardest in everything that I do. And so I was kind of like, to me, getting this piece of paper is something that I want, but at the same time, if I don't need it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I'm just fortunate enough that I happen to have the opportunity so early to decide. And like, I feel like it's definitely important, and it's such a good stepping stone for so many people. And like, there's a lot of industry professionals that I work with now that went to Griffith Film School and that finished the course and they loved it, and they did the exact same things. They made their friends and all that stuff, and they made their films, and it was such a good stepping stone. But for me personally, I feel like right now, this is such a good opportunity that I didn't want to waste it.
Yeah.
So like, I know that the option for me to go back is there, but for me right now, I'm not sure if I will just yet. But
yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, I think it's still like incredible to think that, you know, we're in second year, Bryce. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if in October we were to then go work for Village Roadshow?
No, I can't imagine that.
Neither can I. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was my biggest thing, because honestly, like, I was working a coffee job, so I was a barista, and I was going to uni, and I was just kind of farting around at the beginning of second year going, oh, what do I really want to do? And I thought I wanted to do production design. And so I was kind of like, nah, I'm off cameras, I want to do production design. And then all of a sudden I was kind of like, oh, I actually know a lot about cameras, and I just didn't realize that I did. And like, and so I started to become more and more interested in it. And then I got fired from my job. And so I had no job, I had no money, it was COVID, like, I'd just done all my uni online, and I was kind of like, how could my life be so bad at the moment? Like, was honestly what I was thinking. I was like, I just need something to come about and change this for me. And I'm fortunate enough that I happen to have siblings that work in the industry as industry professionals. So one of my brothers, he's a scenic painter, like scenic artist. And he's worked on like Pirates of the Caribbean and Dora and Love and Monsters, and now he's working on Thor.
Right.
And for ages, he didn't go to film school, he didn't do anything. He just happened to know the right people to get in. And then my other brother, he is the national manager of LEMAC, which is a camera rentals company in Brisbane. and they do a lot of their rentals to these big productions. And so I was completely like, I've got nothing, like all I have is these connections. I have no idea what I want to do though. And my brother said to me, he was like, if you want, you can try and get an internship at Lemac. Like, you'll have to send an email to the head of the company, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'll try anything. And so I did work placement as a subject at uni for the second semester. And I did my internship at Lemac, and I went there and I didn't even know how to set up a tripod properly. A tripod, like a big tripod with a spreader and a head. I was like, I don't know what any of this is, and I was so nervous. But while I was there, I met a bunch of industry professionals that were coming in and renting equipment, and I used my barista experience to literally just make these people's coffee. Like, I wasn't doing anything useful in terms of giving them supplies or talking about cameras. I was literally just making them coffee and asking about their day. But that was enough to kind of put myself in like the good books with those people, right. And to show them that like I was eager, I was keen. And so that was kind of when it started to go good for me, because then I kind of met one person who was like, oh, we want a set of hands on this random thing we're shooting. Do you want to come on? So I did a lot of free work, I did a lot of free commercials. And I think that's the biggest thing, is like putting yourself out there to do all that free stuff. And to show that you're eager, that you want to learn, like, and you can make mistakes on those things because you're not getting paid, and you can learn from them, and it's just such a good opportunity to go forward. And then from that, I met the right people, and I knew there was a job opening for Young Rock, so that's how I kind of weaned onto that.
So following on from that, where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years? It's a big question, but so, you know, from these connections that you might have made on these sets, do you have any idea of where you could go in the next couple of years?
Well, at the moment, I'm still a truck loader. I'm truck loading for the Wilds, but we're working with a 3-camera team. So when one of the second ACs steps out, I have to fill in. So, which is really terrifying for me, because I think like I'm still a baby. But honestly, like in the next 5 years, I'd like to see myself just being a professional second AC, a professional clapper loader. And like, that's another role that I think at film school gets really overlooked for some reason. Like, everyone's like, oh, second AC, all they do is the slates and the camera sheets. But like, they are very important. They're and you'll hear so many people say that the second AC is the workhorse of the camera department. And so yeah, I'd say in the next 5 years, like I would love to be second ACing on TV shows or a production or anything. I definitely see myself in camera department. I don't see myself being my own shooter or my own cinematographer. That's used to be my goal. Like, I went into film school being like, I want to be the top of the food chain, and now I'm like, I just want to be a really good assistant. Like, I don't want to be the best shooter. I want to be the best assistant kind of thing, like, or just the best that I can be. Right. Yeah.
And you said your role was truck loader?
Yeah. So a lot of people, So a lot of people probably don't know what that is. I definitely didn't know what it was going in.
I definitely don't know what it is.
I'm guessing loading trucks, bro.
As in like a physical truck?
Yeah, so like
okay, no,
no, so it's fair enough. So on a big production, in camera, you have a big camera truck. And so each camera team will have like a trolley that has all of their gear on it, and you literally, like, your main priority is to know where every single piece of gear is. So someone might come up to me and go, you need to know, like, I need this 3-pin to 7-pin cable that goes into this, on this motor, on this thing, go find it. And I'll go, cool. And so I have to go find it in the truck. And so a lot of it is literally just like giving people batteries. Like, I'm in charge of all the batteries for everything, all the battery stations, so like all the chargers and stuff. I'm kind of like the admin person. I do everyone's timesheets for the week to make sure they can get paid. If someone has an issue and needs to talk to the office, I have to call the office. If someone is like, oh, I need to rent this thing, or I need to swap over this thing from this rental company, I need to call up the rental company and be like, oi, we need this. It's very fortunate my brother works at the rental company, because a lot of the time I can just call him and be like, oi, help me. So that's a favor. Yeah, so it's a lot of admin stuff. And so my job is to, I'd say theoretically, to help everybody else in the camera department.
I'm actually going into a second AC role on a grad slate.
Nice.
And I'm incredibly nervous. And you're saying this is like, oh, workhorse of the camera department. I'm like, oh my God. So is there any advice you could give me going into this role?
Ask questions.
Yep.
Ask questions. Get to know your first AC. get to know your like DOP or the cinematographer. I'd say the biggest thing honestly is ask questions. Like if you don't know what something is, say teach me. Try to just do your job as thoroughly as possible. So doing some research as well is always handy. Like for ages I didn't realize that if you have a 35mm lens, like rule of thumb is stand 3.5 feet away, and I was like 35, 3.5, and I was like, wow, I'm crazy. I didn't even know that. So like just little things like that. Like there's so many different techniques and tricks and stuff, and your sole purpose is to help build the cameras and pack them down and make sure that there's cards and all that. So yeah, I don't know. I'd say just pay attention, be attentive.
Okay,
yeah.
That's good. So Emma, I think that just about wraps it up for today. Does it?
Our time is a bit behind.
Our time is a bit behind.
Because of the clap.
Oh, no.
I didn't want to have to bring it
So
up.
sorry,
because,
right. Oh, damn. Oh, no, we've run out of
Do we
things to
have
talk about.
anything
No,
we
I'm
can
kidding.
plug? Anything to promote? Your Instagram or anything? Any projects you're working on that we can chuck a feed through?
Well, The Wild season 1, I didn't work on that, but I'm obviously working on season 2. So that's on Amazon. Amazon Prime. You can watch that. That was shot in New Zealand by some beautiful people. Dana Little, he's a camera operator, loveliest person ever. And then Rob Marsh, he's the DOP. He's from New Zealand, beautiful person. And even Young Rock, it comes out on Foxtel and I'm pretty sure Binge as well. From tomorrow, the Sunday, the 2nd of May.
Comes out tomorrow.
Yeah,
There you go.
It was awesome because for ages I was like, I work so hard, I want to watch it. And now, we finally can watch it in Australia, so it's awesome. So Young Rock, The Wild.
Yep. And any previous like student productions or anything you've worked on?
Yes.
Right at the end. So just keep it going.
No, but there's In the Suburbs, I worked on that as a second AC. There's Where Would You Be? I DOP'd that in second year film school. Check out just all the grad slates that are happening now. There's so many good ones that are coming, and they're like all the people in third year, they're beautiful people. They're working so hard. So yeah, just if you're in film school, go see them, go support them, work on them if you can.
Just while we've got a little bit of time at the end, I heard something funny the other day, how they're not supposed to be called grad slates.
Yeah. Do you want to explain that? I was confused by
So
that as
Dean,
well.
one of the head tutors at the school, is like, why do people call them grad slates? What is it's like professional graduation film is the full title, and he doesn't understand why they're called grad slates.
I don't know. I went in there and just learnt they were grad slate.
Yeah, I thought that's what they were called
To me,
because
it's like-
everyone said it.
Yeah.
There's a slate of films, and they're for the graduating year,
Yeah,
grad slate.
grad slate.
Anyway.
Makes sense to me.
I
Yeah.
just thought it was funny.
Rightio.
But
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us, Emma.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you for
that's
having
the
me.
end. I did the intro. I want to do the outro
Yeah,
too,
do the
man.
outro.
So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. Bryce, thank you.
Thank you, Carmelo.
Thank you for listening and watching. This has been the Film School Chronicle. We'll see you next week.